Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your support for this event tonight. My name is Summer Thorpe. I'm an employment counselor and program coordinator for Positive Voice at Nokikwe. Nokikwe is a nonprofit organization. We support individuals in the community with accessing support for their job search and also with adult education. I'm grateful for the attendance tonight of members of our board, also members of my advisory committee for Positive Voice. And to start off with today, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Positive Voice. Positive Voice is a project that has been developed to support urban Aboriginal women as they transition to employment or to education. The goal is that they develop positive narratives and positive connections in the community. So having you all here to support the program, and one of our goals of building positive connections, is amazing. We're so grateful to Western and Public Humanities and all the faculties who provide support for this event. And we're grateful for Matika for traveling a great distance to come here and be with us this evening. I'm grateful to be able to associate with the women in the program. You'll be able to meet them in a few minutes. The way the program's going to go is that we have some wonderful performers. We have a member of our program named Heather, who has some great arm twisting skills, and so she's gotten her family to come and perform for you tonight. We have performers from Canada and also performers from Australia, so it's an international event tonight. So, one note that I want to mention is that part of the program is that the women have developed graphic design skills. So they've developed memes, they've developed infographics. Over here on this table, to my left, is a table full of postcards like these. One of the program elements that the women participated in was that they wrote messages to our members of parliament. You can still send a letter to a member of parliament for free. So we have postcards. I'd encourage you to take a minute and write a message about your dreams for Aboriginal people in Canada, what you would like the Prime Minister to do. We have pre-printed labels for our Honourable Prime Minister if you'd like to send a card to him directly. We also have lists of addresses for other members of Parliament. If you just want to write a general note, we can forward that for you. So please take a minute. I'd encourage you to do that. And without further ado, I will turn the time over to our performers tonight.
Ani, my name is Candace Scott Moore, and I am the niece of my Auntie Heather. Her and my mom are twin sisters. So when she called and asked if we could come out to sing tonight, of course, yes, anything for Auntie Heather. And also to be here to support the women in the program, because from what she's told us about giving a message of positivity about Aboriginal women. We're all about that. Myself, I come from a background of arts administration. I was the artistic producer for Planet Indigenous, a 10-day international Indigenous arts festival in Toronto. I've been doing that since 2004. I've also been the associate producer for the Inspire Awards, which is formerly known as the National Aboriginal Achievement Awards. I did that. I've been working on that show now for 12 years, and I just love that. The things that Aboriginal people are doing across Canada is just fantastic. I'm so inspired every time I see the show and work on it. My sister and I, we recently started the Wayopunung Arts Collective because we're back home in Kettle Point now, and we thought, with our backgrounds and everything we do, let's bring arts to our community. And we just try to inspire and uplift young people in our community. And also, I've joined the National Advisory Circle for Right to Play, which is a nonprofit organization where we encourage young children to be great leaders. So thank you very much for having me, and I'll let my sister introduce herself.
Ani, bonjour, migrants de Dishnekras, Kikonon, Gonjaba, Neneva Nudoran, Anishna Bekweninga. Hello everyone, my name is, well, my spirit name is Little Feather, but I've grown. My English name is Jessica Wild Pelche. I'm from Cal Point First Nation, and I'm an Anishinaabe woman. I've been in the arts as well. I worked with a touring company for about 10 or 11 years, traveling across Europe and Canada performing. But yeah, finally made it home and get to team up with my sister, which is always fun. We have crazy nights. We have so many dreams, so many things we want to do for our community. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Ojibwe territory, and he's my sister.
She's totally not giving herself the credit that she deserves.
I don't like talking about myself.
I guess that's part of us, not wanting to talk about ourselves and the things we do. But Jessica has toured around the world. She's been gracing stages all across Europe. She's been to Australia. We've performed in Australia together. She wrote a one-woman show called Starting Monday, which breaks down the barriers of body image and bullying, and that has toured schools, which is really important. And she travels to the remote flying communities like Attawapiskat, Kanjicum, Summer Beaver, and bringing arts and motivation to the children in those communities. And she's just done so much. She's an actor, she's a dancer, a singer, and but together we just started singing, so we're just learning songs together. And so the first song we want to sing for you, and this is dedicated to the women in this program, is the Strong Woman song. So, one moment. I don't know how to turn it on.
Sometimes you just get into it and just want to let it rip. So the next song we're going to sing for you is the water song. So as women, the creator, Geshem, he gave us the gift of giving life. But he also gave us a teaching that us as women are the protectors of the water. 'Cause in order to have healthy babies, healthy living, you need clean, healthy water. So the song that we're going to sing is the water song, and it talks about the movement of the water. So the water is a lot like our lives sometimes, right? Sometimes everything's nice and calm, has a nice flow to it, but then you hit a point where everything just starts rushing at you, and it gets heavy. But no matter what you do, you get through that, and it gets nice and calm again. So this is the water song.
So I'm just going to introduce my husband, who's pretty fantastic. His name is Richard Scott Moore. His traditional name is Goombine. Goombine is from the Yuin Wadi Wadi Nation of Australia. He's from the Yuin people. He's reserved, well, in Australia they call him the Mission, is located on the southeast coast of Australia, just 2 hours south of Sydney. Goombine he's a songman, so he's the one who carries the traditional songs who have been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And there's not a lot of songmen right now, but with Richard going to the schools and teaching in the communities, a lot of these young children are learning the songs and bringing the traditions back. He's also a choreographer, so he choreographed the Australian segment at the Beijing Olympics in 2008, and he co-choreographed the Rugby World Cup opening ceremonies when they hosted them in Sydney. He also recorded a CD with the songs that he sings and teaches, and he gave them all away. He gave them all away to all the schools all along the south coast of Australia, because he goes into the schools and he teaches the children, and so those children, when he's not there, because we live in Australia 6 months out of the year, and we live in Canada for 6 months, so when he's gone, the children use, okay. This button? Okay. Yeah, so when we're in Canada and we were not there, the children use that CD, which is, I think, is pretty awesome. And then when we're back in Australia, we'll be invited to a performance and we're listening like, hey, that's you. So it's pretty great. Like, he likes to share a lot. And so we met at Planet Indigenous, the festival that I work on. We brought him over because we were doing our research on performers from Australia, and he came up on our search, and he became highly recommended. So he came out, and opening night of the festival, I was like, who are you? Wow. So anyway, 7 years later, here we are, and we tour back and forth, and we always share our cultures in each other's countries, and we're, yeah, welcome Guline.
Well, she's said, maybe I can go now. Seems a bit easy. Yeah, she's just about said everything I need to say. So. But yeah, as you know, I'm from the southeast coast of Sydney, Australia. The most important thing to me is respect and respecting the woman, because when I first started my culture, the first thing I had to do was learn the respect of a woman, and part of that was going bush. And I was taken by my uncles, me and my other cousins, and we're taken bush for 9 months, as long as it takes for a woman to birth a child. And this was called our birthing law. So that's so it'd be like 4 months with the elders, teaching, showing me everything in the bush, my cousins, how to survive, medicines, and then the last 5 months is by ourselves. Our elders go. And that's how we become a man, is to learn that respect of a woman. So it's a great privilege, and my culture is my life. Like, I love teaching kids, because they're our generation, and it's all about them, because they're going to be the ones to take over. So it's up to us now to teach them how to be strong, how to be positive. What I'll do, I'll sing you a song. This is my welcoming song. But before I do, I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past and present. Makutana jang barangay hindi jimeo tanong na may guru mama di dulu majab di jadi maji dewan. Nang di maji na betul jangga. Jang diwa makutana jang. As you see with the girls, First Nations people, they have the drums, and to them it's like mother's heartbeat, and these represent the same thing. These represent mother's heartbeat. We say Najang Miriam. game. You're going to listen to me, and you're going to repeat what I say or what I do. So if I clap these, you're going to do it. When I point at you, it's your turn. This is going to break the ice. Okay? So if I sing, then you sing, and I'll tell you what the song's been after you. Are you ready? Yeah. Now you have to sing loud. Okay? Sing loud. Sing loud. I'll be watching you. Sing loud and come up and sing with me. Okay? They use these for digging, crushing up wild berries, and keeping the men into line. So when they raise these, we listen. Does anybody know what this is? That's a didgeridoo. Most people know it as a didgeridoo. In our language, we say yidaki. Can you say yidaki? Yidaki. That's one of our oldest wind instruments. And reason why it's known as a didgeridoo, I'm going to show you what happened when my elders back green time, we were looking out on the rocks, looking out to sea, we seen this ship coming, and they seen us with this. But we were watching them, we were looking at them like that. We thought there was something wrong with them, because they heard us play the didgeridoo, but when we finished, we looked at them and they were like this. We thought they were playing their didgeridoo wrong. They must be sick or something. Poor fellas. But anyways, this is the didgeridoo. So I'm going to let you know why they call it the didgeridoo. I just put beeswax on the end of this. This one I made myself. How it's made, by the way, is it's white ants, termites. The big termite hills, like this tall, they can be taller. And they build their nests in the big termite hills next to trees. And what happens, the termites eat up the middle of the tree. Then it's all rotten. And so what we do, we go around with our sticks or boomerangs, we tap it. If it sounds hollow, that's our yidaki, our didgeridoo. But if it's solid, we'll leave it alone. Still got to grow. So here we go. Oh, did I tell you that with beeswax?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just churning them up. See, play it. So this is a heavier one. This one here is this is my favourite beach. Yerek. This comes from Arnhem Land, top end. And if you'll notice, that has a deeper drone sound. This one's a lot more different sound. These are our wongles. These are our killer boomerangs. We have all sorts of different shapes of boomerangs. And we hunt with them, we go to war with them, or we use them for music. We have these ones here. This is for a bigger game like kangaroo. So I throw it. Throw it on there, break his legs while he's hopping. There's my tucker. That's my dinner. I'm going to sing you a song now. This is our finishing song. Manya Mandera go Wanya Makanyo on your means I'm hungry for my home. I'm going home.
Next up, I would like to introduce, I just got given this great honor to introduce a fantastic, phenomenal woman, my Auntie Heather Hammond. She is from the Chippewas of Pendleton Stony Point First Nation, and we come from a line of strong women who empower each other. We always uplift each other. We're there to support and guide and encourage and to challenge each other from time to time, but through everything, we get through it all, and the strength that my Auntie Heather has given us and our family over the years since I was just a child has been incredible, and you get to hear from her now. So here's my Auntie Heather.
Come on up, ladies. I've got some stellar ladies coming up. Well, that performance made me feel very warm and very nice. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think we're minus one gal tonight, but that's okay. Good evening, Turtle Island. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Attawagan, and Medet peoples. My name is Heather Hammond, and we are the pilot group of Positive Voice. We have many presentations to share with you tonight, but first I would like to acknowledge my peers of the Positive Voice group. And here they are. Sarah, Bonnie, Nikki, and Allison. A word about my peers. We traveled a learning journey together, and it has made us strong. We created memes, infographics, and learned how to operate a digital camera, and it has made us strong. We helped each other all through these challenges, and we often laughed. Sometimes we cried. It made us strong. We are now sisters of the learning journey, and we have become powerful. We had the distinct opportunity yesterday to meet Matika Wilbur. Matika is a Swingamish Telula winning photographer from Seattle, Washington. Although she is likely to be found traveling the United States and the world at large, sharing her knowledge and gifts. She is a compassionate, knowledgeable, and a powerful spirit. Her goal is to portray Native Americans as they are and not as others perceive them to be. She came to Positive Voice to share her knowledge of photography and storytelling. We also benefited from hearing her drumming and singing. We are very happy to welcome Matika this evening and invite you to learn from our new friend. Welcome, Matika.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Oh, Tigwiti, thank you to the singers for opening us up in a good way, and so I don't have to sing for all of you because we had so many beautiful songs. Thank you for that. Yeah. Oh, hello, everybody. Hello. Yeah. My name is Matika Wilbur. I'm from the Swinomish and Tlahtolelap tribes in Washington State, which is the people of the tide, the salmon people. We're from the Coast Salish Sea, and I'd like to raise my hands to the Positive Voice program for inviting me, and especially to my elders for allowing me to share with you this evening. And I would like to just apologize up front, to my elders and tell you I'm young and learning, and so I hope that you'll forgive me for the ways in which I say things that shouldn't be said. And so I welcome your input in that way. And I really want to, be sure to raise my hands to all of you. And where I'm from, we raise our hands to one another and we say Tigwitsi. Try it, say Tigwitsi. Tigwitsi. Harishka. Yes, that means that I respect you and I honor you where you come from. And so I want to make sure that all of you feel that from me. I'm glad that you took time out of your schedule to be here tonight, even if your teacher made you. I'm still glad you're here. So I've been asked to come and share my work with you. And I bet you're all sitting out there wondering to yourself, what is this fabulous, petite, beautiful young Native person doing up there? And well, let's just jump right into it. 4 years ago, I did what my aunties call radical. I hit the open road in my war pony, known as the Big Girl, which is that RV right there, with the serious goal to photograph people from over 562 federally recognized tribes in the United States. That's how many tribes there were then. In the United States, there is now 567 federally recognized tribes. We're not going to get into the issue of how a tribe becomes federally recognized or not. It's a terrible, terrible thing to discuss. And maybe if one of you has the bravery to ask me in the Q&A, I'll get into it. But that is the inception of the project named Project 562. So we had one major goal, which was to change the way we see Native America, to drive conversations about the ubiquitous appropriation of Native American culture, and to discuss how our citizens can evolve beyond the co-opting of Indigenous images and traditions by creating a new reality, a new curriculum, an updated version, an honest photographic telling of America's first people. So when completed, Project 562 will result in a series of books, exhibitions, lecture series, and most importantly, public curriculum that can be shared in public schools. So before I undertook this project, I had a great career and routine as a fine arts and commercial photographer, and I was a teacher in Washington State. And all of my friends and relatives, they asked, but why would you leave this wonderful life for the road? I mean, seriously, why would you move out of your fabulous apartment and into like a tiny RV? You must be out of your mind. And so, you know, it was here while I was teaching at my tribal school on my res that I finally realized over and over and over again, really, that the American dream did not really include us. I realized that when Lincoln said "for the people," he did not mean Native American people. In fact, he meant those that were actually considered people at the time. I came to understand that the core of our curriculum is not based in truth. It doesn't acknowledge our Indigenous intelligence. If it did, we would teach principles like Haudenosaunee, Ganagowehi, Ganak, Gano Viehio. Sorry, I can't say it properly, but that is how you say it, spell it. How to be of a good mind, a non-judgmental state of mind, where becoming a peacemaker or seed keeper or land steward is held at the highest esteem. We would teach our children how to walk in light and love and beauty. We would teach our children how to feel fulfilled. That would be at the core of our curriculum if Indigenous principles had been integrated into your public school curriculum. But we still teach our children that Columbus discovered America. We still gather each year for Thanksgiving and tell the story of Indians welcoming the Pilgrims. Our historical amnesia has enabled us to forget the ways in which our country was built on the backs of slaves on stolen Indian land. So, while I was teaching in 4 years at a tribal high school, I buried 19 of my students. The toll of addiction, abuse, and unnatural deaths overwhelmed me. And after so much loss of potential, I would sit in lodges with my fellow teachers, and we would pray for our children, feeling hopelessness and despair, begging the Creator to give us an answer. How do we help our children? And it was there, in those classrooms, that I realized that inequality is measured in body count. So Coates says, Ta-Nehisi Coates, all our phrasing, race relations, racial chasm, racial justice, racial profiling, white privilege, even white supremacy, it serves to obscure that racism is a visceral experience. It dislodges brains, it blocks airways, it rips muscle, it extracts organs, cracks bone, breaks teeth. And we must never look away from this. We must always remember that the sociology, the history, the economics, the graphs, the charts, the regressions all land with great violence upon the body. So I hit the road because I had to. Because I believed that until we create a new narrative, until we shift our collective consciousness, that racism is going to continue. So since November of 2012, I've touched down in every state. I've been to nearly 400 tribes. I've taken thousands of portraits. I've gathered as many oral narratives. I've grown and cried and been stifled by fear and loved and adventured. and done it all over and over and over again. It's been a whirlwind of a journey where my brakes went out on top of a mountaintop one time, and a couple weeks ago I hit a deer. I even set fire to my big girl cooking bacon. But, god darn it, I was going to continue because I still have 200 rides to go yet, and also because I think it's important that I have the opportunity to fulfill my mission so I could be in places like this to share with fine folks like you. God, and you know, the thing is I've learned so much. It has been the most incredible experience getting to know our people in the most intimate and way possible. You know, it's like you don't really know somebody until you're doing their dishes and eating breakfast with them. And that's what the road has been like for me. I've been staying in people's homes. And so tonight, I'd like to share some of the stories with you that I've encountered and some of the lessons that have been hard learned for me. And I promise to not bore you completely. I might. Then there's nothing you can do about it because we're all going to get you, watch you if you get up and walk away. I'm just kidding. You're stuck now. Oh well, so just kidding. Okay. Okay, welcome. So here's something I thought about. Ooh, you're stuck. It's important to say and important to acknowledge that the past is always happening. The stories of our ancestors live inside of us. The truth is, I'm always a little bit nervous to come and speak. Well, correction, I'm nervous right now. And I can always tell when I'm nervous because my butt cheeks kind of shake. I know, I'm sorry, Auntie, I said butt cheeks. But I don't know why, it's like not my hands or like, I don't know why that's what trembles. You know, I guess some things are just uncontrollable. Anyway, the point is that when I'm going to come and do these things, I have to deal with that fear. And I have to prepare for these sort of situations. And the way that I do that is through prayer. I come from prayerful people. I come from ceremonial people. And so, you know, I check my fear by going to ceremony, and that's what I kind of do as often as possible. And I sit and sweat, and I ask the Creator, what kind of messages would you like me to share? And what a privilege to have an audience. What's worth saying? And then I was listening recently in the ceremony, listening as they said, oh, this song I'm going to share with you, it comes from my Aunt Nancy. Oh, I want to share this teaching with you. It comes from my grandfather, Tandy. I'd like to share with you this beautiful teaching that comes to me from fill in the blank. And that's when I realized, when I heard the medicine man say to me, it's important that we acknowledge where our teachings come from. Because it's in that way that our ancestors are able to live. So it's important that I acknowledge that the words that I'm sharing with you this evening come from my ancestors. And if there's fault in the words or in the way that the story is presented, that fault belongs to me. It's my responsibility, and I take great pride in doing my best to tell the truth and tell the stories as they were told to me. Sometimes that means that that's not an easy story to tell, and sometimes it means that we get to laugh a little bit. And so that's the way things will go right now. So here's something I've learned. There is no such thing as an American Indian. This is a photo of the late John Trudell. He's a Lakota activist and poet, and God bless him, he just walked into the woods last year in San Francisco, where we took this photo a few years ago. Oh man, I was completely starstruck when I met John. I mean, growing up, I'd read all of his poems, I'd listened to his music, I admired him because of his occupation at Alcatraz and them starting the AIM movement. I was just like, oh man, you're just the coolest. I'm so excited to meet you. And I could barely even talk to him, but I managed to stumble out a few questions, and I asked John the question I asked all of my Project 562 participants: what does it mean to be an Indian? Because I myself don't even really know what that means, I don't think. And John looked at me and he said, Matika, there's no such thing as an American Indian. The only thing that the American Indian has known is struggle, slavery, self-determination, relocation, assimilation, genocide. And then he looked at me and he said, you already know who you are. Where are your people from? I said, well, I'm Swinomish and Dohlelap. And he said, what does that mean? Oh, it means that I'm the people of the tide. We come from the salmon. He said, Matika, you can never be something you never were. I've thought about this idea over and over and over again. I cannot be something I never was. There is no pan-Indian identity, nor is there Aboriginal, First Nation, Native American, or any other popular term we've been given, pigeonholed, in an attempt for them to try to understand us. We have complex understandings of our state, of ourselves, that predate colonial contact. And that identity is inextricably connected to the land. Native American land is essential to our Native American identity. We're the people of the blue-green water. We're the people of the tall pine trees, the people that live within the 4 sacred mountains. But what happens when our relationship with that land is dramatically changed? And although we haven't relocated, we feel displaced because the face of Mother Earth has changed so dramatically around us. So a few years ago, I went to visit Colin Soto in Cocopah. Cocopah is the last tribe on the Colorado River before Mexico. Colin can recall growing up in a mud home. His parents were fishermen and farmers, and every year the Prescott Valley that they lived in would flood, naturally irrigating the soil to make for plentiful farming. He recalls a super happy childhood. Cousins all over, delicious food, the smell of fire. He remembers playing in the river, and then he remembers when the river was diverted, the river was dammed, when the people moved into HUD homes and commodity food became a strong part of their diet. And then he looked at me and he said, Matika, to be Cocopah is to be the people of the blue-green water. But how can we be Cocopah if there is no more water? Academics now have a term for it. They call it solastalgia. It's defined as the mourning we experience when we're separated from a cherished home. So this is a more visceral and compelling environmentalism, which in most Western thinking and training focuses broadly on preservation of natural resources, but overlooks people's core relationship with their specific sustaining ecologies. This is not surprising, given the related American idea of social mobility. Native Americans just don't roll that way. The prolonged environmental and human holocaust that we have experienced, our mourning and grief at such loss, have reached a pivotal moment. Native nations have taken an unprecedented stand together against the destruction of our homelands through the extraction and fouling of Mother Earth. Native people are at the forefront of almost every major environmental protection movement in the United States. In Navajo Nation, we see women protesting against fracking. In the Pacific Northwest, Indigenous people say show no to coal exports in the Salish Sea. In New Mexico, Apaches gather to protect Oak Flats. In Florida, there is an Indigenous advocacy to restore the Everglades. In Hawaii, thousands of Indigenous farmers join together to abolish the genetic modification of kalo and the ongoing resistance of Mauna Kea. And in this moment right now, in Standing Rock, North Dakota, there is the largest gathering of the modern era of Native American tribes and peoples of the world. Environmentalists and human rights advocates for the peaceful protection of Mini-Wichoni, meaning water is life, against the DAPL pipeline, the black snake that threatens so much of the quality and sense of life in the Midwest. Are you guys familiar with Standing Rock? So, yeah, some of you. It's in North Dakota. Standing Rock is kind of one of the epicenters of the Sioux people that, in their understanding, they call themselves Hunkpapa. And the Hunkpapa people, in their creation story, they believe that they came from the stars. Have you ever looked up at the Big Dipper and seen where it looks as though there is a star missing? When that star fell, it fell right here on this little mountain behind where that little girl is. And it was there in that place that the Creator gave life to the Hunkapapa people. And it was there that from that very place, that mountain, 3 rivers sprung, went in 3 different directions. And in that place, where the 3 rivers meet, the water whirls and makes this, it's an incredible place because it's one of the only places in the world where the water whirls and makes all of the stones in the riverbed completely circular. And it's believed that the first gift given from the Creator was water. And the second gift given from the Creator is those grandfather stones that are circular. So, this resistance has been going on for a long time. I was out there for about a month and a half. When I arrived in August, there was like 50 people camped out in the field, mostly young people. It's a very long story of why this is illegal in so many ways, but let me tell you this, it's within the treaty territory of the Hunkapapa people. And so, private landowners on Labor Day came to the tribe and said to the tribe, man, we found some bones, a femur bone and an arm bone where the pipe is supposed to be laid down next week. We thought we would come and tell you, so if you wanted to go and get them, you could at least take them out before they dug them up. And so the tribe immediately called the Tribal Historic Preservation Office and tried to get a survey to stop this digging from happening, to stop them from digging up the bones of their ancestors. And this was on a Friday. It was Labor Day weekend, a holiday weekend. No work was supposed to happen Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so that Saturday, water protectors walked out to the place where the bones were going to be dug up to go make prayers for that place. And then what they were met with was DAPL, who had gone 30 miles off of their path to go and destroy that site before surveyors could get there. And this is what happened that day.
Come on, guys.
Most of us women, we linked arms and we went up to the front line and we started pushing through, and we weren't like literally pushing, we were just walking, and this guy comes, he's a private contractor security, and he started spraying her, and then he started spraying right along everyone who was linked up.
I don't know how to get this in. My whole body is all hot.
What's your name? Where are you from?
Orvin Flying Horse from Bullet, South Dakota.
And they set the dogs on us and they started spraying us. Before I got sprayed, I seen dogs biting people indiscriminately, including Dakota Access Pipeline workers.
I was just going toward the truck with my dog, and then the guy just leaned out and pepper sprayed me. Thankfully, he didn't hit my dog, but I just got mace all over my eyes.
Oh my God.
We stand! We stand! For water! For water! For life! For life! We stand! We stand! With our brothers! With our brothers! And our sisters! And our sisters! We stand! We stand! With our people! With our people! For one nation! For one nation! We stand! We stand! For water! For water! For life! For life! We stand!
So those kids chanting at the end were the kids that actually ran from Bismarck, North Dakota, all the way to Washington, D.C. to try to raise awareness about that very issue. And on Saturday, hundreds of water protectors from different nations were met with violence by militarized police in riot gear, and approximately 141 people were arrested. 4 protectors locked themselves to a disabled car at an active construction site, stopping the construction for 7 hours, and then peaceful procession of hundreds walked us to the sacred site that I just showed you on September 3rd, and most were rounded up and arrested. And so part of the reason why I had to leave Standing Rock is because they had an arrest warrant out for me and several other journalists, Amy Goodman and a ton of journalists, anybody with a camera really was getting purposely arrested. And so, you know, it's a crazy thing going on right now in North Dakota. And this is not my normal thing to come and do and talk to you about something like this. But I find it to be incredibly important, because if we don't see ourselves as separate from land, if land is essential to our identity, and the land is being continually disrupted, what does that do to our sense of purpose and belonging, and to our sense of humanity with our fellow brothers and sisters, if we aren't actually being treated fairly? So I just found out that 3 of the ladies that I filmed in that video were arrested and kept overnight, and they were strip searched, and then they were kept in jail for 8 hours without any clothes on. And, you know, the use of dogs and putting, you know, they cover people's eyes and holding them in jail cells without clothes is a human violation. And that's what's happening right now in Standing Rock. So it's a terrible violation of human rights. And so I have been asked to share that message with all of you, and to ask all of you tonight if you would be willing to stand with Standing Rock. And sometimes that looks different for different people, but they've asked for more people to go there. And they need resources to make it through the winter time, and they're asking for your prayers and your good thoughts. And so, you know, the truth is, the way that we treat our land is directly related to the way we treat our women. If we are willing to penetrate the earth for her natural resources, unafraid of the consequences, our women, who have been the stewards of our land for millennia, will also feel its effects. The systemic exploitation and corruption of the sanctity of land. It's women stewards who are also lost and been terribly violated. And right now, especially here in Canada, brown women deserve safety. So when I sit down to listen to our people, especially our women, they erupt with their innermost stories. For some reason, they want me to know. Maybe it's because they knew we'd be here. Maybe because sharing their stories will save somebody's life. Or maybe it's just because we all desperately yearn for the telling of our truths. But the stories that I've encountered in Indian country are the kind of stories that are incredibly hard to repeat. Grandmas tell me about what happened to them in IHS clinics, of how they'd gone in to have their first baby and were never able to conceive again, only to find out years later that they'd been sterilized without their consent, victims of a de facto governmental one-child policy. Married women tell me about their abusive husbands, of the violence and loneliness and despair. One lady told me about how she was raped in the army, and then she was demoted when she sought justice. Then she returned home with a mixed-race child born of rape, and she's made to feel like an outcast in her own community. Women talk about their alarm about tribal children committing suicide, as many have already. They tell me stories about race and caste and how their bodies are used to perpetuate both. High caste women are sexually restricted with government policies like blood quantum, while women at the bottom are sexually exploited. And while I want to stand up here this evening and tell you stories about light and love and beauty, I have to tell you that these experiences articulate our current socioeconomic situation. Native women are the most victimized in North America. 3 out of 4 have experienced sexual assault or domestic violence in her lifetime. So for most Native women, it's not a question of if, but rather a question of when. And for me, that's terrifying because I have 5 sisters. I have nieces, grandmas, and aunties. And I have to live in Indian country. Here in Canada, there are an estimated like 1,400 stolen sisters from age 2 to 78, disappeared and never found, missing and likely murdered. So there is no question that we are in a very critical time in a long-standing epidemic of abuse and misuse of our Native women and children. And these hard and real stories are connected to the compelling female narrative from Sky Woman forward. And they deserve to be told as a part of the collective voice of Indian women. So this is the way I think about it. Could you imagine if 3 out of 4 white women in this country were experiencing those sort of harsh realities? What would happen on this campus alone? Things would be shut down. Men would be wearing like chastity belts. It would get real, right? But why is that not happening, knowing that that's what's happening to Native women? I don't understand. So this is Jenny Parker. She's a public school teacher. She was for 25 years in Northern Cheyenne. She taught at this really beautiful school where she taught the language. She's a language teacher. And one day she got a call from the police. They came down, they got her from the school, and they asked her to come down to the police station because they wanted her to come and identify a body. And when she got there, she realized that it was her daughter's. And her daughter had been attacked and left by the side of the road. And she passed away there. And Jenny afterwards, she just became nearly catatonic. She had a heart attack, and she just had the hardest time. She said she was dying of a broken heart. And that's when Charlize, Crystal's grandchild in this picture, she was determined not to lose her grandmother, Jenny, as well as she lost her mom. So she went to her grandma in the hospital and she said, "Grandma, please, you gotta get better. Can you come home?" And Jenny said, "No, I don't really think I can. I'm ready to go on to the other side. Please, Grandma, please. I want to move in with you." "Okay, but you're going to have to pray with me." "Okay, Grandma, I'll pray with you." So they went home together. She goes to her grandma. "Grandma, just stand up today. Grandma, come on, you can make it. Come to the kitchen with me. Grandma, walk with me outside to the porch. You can do it." Charlize gave Jenny the love, faith, and presence that helped her live again. And slowly, by walking, they'd be walking to the end of the block and to the end of the res, other women would come and start to walk with them. And they started walking collectively together to raise awareness about what's happening to women in their community. And pretty soon, hundreds of women were walking with them, so they decided to have an annual walk where they walk and ride horses from one part of the reservation to the other to raise awareness about what is happening to Indian women. It's called 3000 Rising. Started because of Jenny, her love of her granddaughter. She says, it's the love that we have with the other generations that heals us. That's what helps our kids to get better. That's what heals our communities. So, I have found in our women's stories a treasure trove of knowledge and strength and vision. And I've met women who, despite these sort of realities, they've endured the crisis and transformed the narrative. Women who prosper, who become self-actualized, they fight for our nationhood, they carry our culture forward, they save our languages and seeds and histories and lives, while birthing our next leaders, putting to rest our previous generation. Women fully understanding the complexities and power of story as social, shaping and crucial to the individual. I've met women like this one coming up here, Dr. Mary Evelyn Belgard, who taught me that cultural education and Western education deserve equal value and equal resources. So this is Dr. Mary. She's a retired professor of Indian education from the University of New Mexico. She's from the Pueblo of Isleta and Okeawinge. She's wearing her manta that is traditionally worn in ceremonies in the Pueblos. And she's awesome. You love her. She's like your favorite grandma. Like you go over to her house and she feeds you a bunch of green chili and then more green chili and then more green chili until you're sweating, and then she gives you cookies and a big vat of coffee, and you just love being there. You kind of want to take a nap. She's like your favorite person to be around. She has this perfect little voice and a good little chuckle, and then she says, okay, are you full? Yeah, I'm full. Okay, good, because I want to talk to you about how assimilation has hurt our children. You're like, oh man. Okay, I'm ready. You know, she'll go on to tell you about boarding schools and what happened and how our education was taken away from us. And you know, this woman, Dr. Mary, it's incredible what she did. She worked with a group of 5 educators to challenge the state to get federal funding to pay for Indian education and curriculum that was developed by Native people. They won, and they opened 19 charter schools. It's amazing. They now have 90% of their people are fluent in their languages as a result of their work 30 years later. And one thing she said to me, when are we going to stop asking our children to choose between cultural education and Western education? I think we are ready to stop the assimilation process. The time to change is right now. This is a photo of Dr. King. She's a Cherokee, one of my favorite Cherokees of all time. And she's a Stanford and Harvard alumna, and now she's a Brown University professor, and she also is the author of a fabulous blog called Native Appropriations. Some of you may recognize her by that blog, and she's always on TV talking about appropriations. And she has spent most of her time in higher education researching the experience for Native college students. And last year she wrote a blog post called Dear Native College Student, You Are So Loved. It was prompted by the suicide of a Stanford student. She shares the experience of Native students at Stanford and throughout higher education, of how Native students aren't given a space on campus for prayer, how young Navajo students wake up early in the morning to make their prayers toward the east, next to dumpsters, the only accessible space of peace on campus. She points out our statistics, that for every 100 Native students that start 9th grade, only 50 will graduate from high school. 20 of those graduates will go on to higher education, and 1 will graduate from college. It takes 2,500 Native 9th graders to create 1 Native master's graduate, and 7,000 Native 9th graders to create 1 Native PhD. On top of these numbers, the numbers for suicides are staggering. We recently heard the shocking statistic that 1 out of 5 Native male university students will attempt suicide during his college career. And we know that our kids experience the highest rates of suicide in the country. So when Adrienne wrote this post, she wanted to offer a bit of comfort and healing to her beloved Stanford Native community, but she also wanted to call attention to the importance of working together to love our students. She writes, Dear Native college student, you are loved. You are loved so deeply and immensely that there are not words to convey the power of that love. And before I say any more, I want you to know that your ancestors love you, your family loves you, your friends, roommates, classmates, they love you. Your professors love you. We love you, and we need you. We need you here. We need you to fight and survive and thrive. But above all else, please, please know that you are loved. She says it's more than just giving unconditional love. She says that in places like this, academic institutions, that we have a responsibility as well. It's not enough to push Native students to enroll in college and expect them to conform to the norms and expectations of spaces not meant for them, and then to forge their own path home. We need to embody the Cherokee concept of Kajugi, working together toward a common goal that benefits the entire community. Colleges can't be the sole responsibility of our students, and colleges need to work to make environments supportive and degrees relevant to Indian country. You think so? Yeah? You with me? How you doing? Okay. We're almost there. Are you gonna make it? Should we stretch? No, we're not. You don't have to stretch. You can stretch if you want to. Go ahead, stretch. No? Okay. Just want to make sure you're with me. So I want to talk to you about something that I just love. Maybe you've heard of this before, maybe you heard me earlier today, but I want to talk to you about Indigenous perspective. So 2 years ago, I had the privilege of going on a canoe journey in Southeast Alaska. The journey is conducted to prevent suicide. We paddled for 3 weeks from the small Tlingit village of Kikwan all the way into Juneau. It was super beautiful, except that we ran out of food like 4 days in and we had to eat a lot of seal, but besides that, it was awesome. Many lessons were learned, and on the last day of my Alaskan journey, I met a traditional longhouse orator for pancakes, and there wasn't really, he wouldn't let me take his picture. You know, we met in the longhouse, and he was like, no, this knowledge that I'm sharing with you, it's meant to be felt with the spirit, so, you know, don't take my picture, but I want to give you something to share with the people when you go back to the mainland. Okay, I got it, I'm ready. And he said, hand me your ring. And I was like, not that I love this. I was thinking to myself, but I love this ring. You know, like traditionally in our cultures, if somebody tells you they like something that you're wearing, you're supposed to take it off and give it to them. That's like a big teaching. And I'm like, I'm just like thinking, oh man, I'm just not tradition. Because I like took my ring off, you know, and I handed it to him, and he holds it up like this, and he says, okay, tell me what you see. It's to the people across the table, and they go, oh, it's blue, it's kind of round, it kind of looks like an oval, and then he says to the people on the other side, okay, tell me what you see. Well, it's silver, and it kind of has like a thing protruding from it. Okay, now he turns to the other side, tell me what you see. Okay, what color is it? Well, it's silver and turquoise. And then he says to another observer, okay, who's right? What is that? Is it silver? Is it turquoise? Is it an oval? You see, when we allow space for perspective, when we allow space for the telling of a history or the telling, it can be told from that perspective, and that perspective, and that perspective, and each is right. But when we write things down in history books, and we tell it one way, that means there's only one right way, and then everything else is wrong. And that's how we get into arguments with one another. So he says, remind the people that although we don't have written histories in the way that they would like us to tell the history, that we do have ways of remembering our own histories. And that when we tell the story, you might hear it a few different ways. But if you allow yourself to think with Indigenous perspective, you can get the more well-rounded story. I thought, oh man, that's so cool. I was like, mind blown. So, you know, I also went on a canoe journey this last year. So we paddled, and this is a 14-person canoe. We paddled this canoe from Nooksack up in the northwest by Canada, all the way down to Nooksack. So it's a couple 100 miles, 400 miles or something like that. It took us a long time. It took us a couple of weeks. I've had the privilege and honor of doing this my entire life, but I don't think that I really ever understood what a privilege and an honor that was until this year. So while we were traveling right here in this place, I wanted to show you this picture because on that point is where a traditional longhouse used to be. So in the Northwest, for thousands of years, our people traveled up and down the ancestral highways of the Coast Salish Sea to go to potlatches and ceremonies with one another. However, in the late 1800s, it became illegal for more than 5 Indians to congregate. So if more than 5 Indians were hanging out together, you'd all get arrested, which is one way that our potlatches stopped happening. It also became illegal for Indians to travel by canoe in the Coast Salish Sea. So if a native person was traveling down the waterways in their canoe, they'd be shot at, and their canoes would be burned and chopped in half. And so for a very long time, canoes did not travel up and down these Coast Salish seas. Until 1979, when the Indian Religious Freedom Act was passed. 2 years later, in 1981, 3 dudes got together. I shouldn't call them dudes, they're incredible elders who saved our traditional waterways. Very respected too, like Chief Frank Nelson and Marvin Oliver, like these very respected elders got together and decided that they were going to paddle and into the port of Seattle. And at the time, Seattle was having their 100th centennial celebration of the city of Seattle, celebrating 100 years, which is kind of ironic because Duwamish and Suquamish and Nisqually people lived there for thousands of years, but okay. So they decided to paddle their canoes and protest and say, yo, we've been here for a lot longer than 100 years. I don't think they said it like that, but that's what I would have said. And during the process of creating the canoe, they had to go back into the archives. They had to figure out how to make a canoe. They didn't remember. They had to figure out how to make a paddle. Nobody remembered. They had to figure out where to go to harvest a large enough cedar tree that you could dig out that would be large enough. They had to go very far. There weren't very many old growth cedar trees left. But they figured it out. They loved the process so much, they thought, oh man, we need to share this with the kids. We should do this again. Let's paddle to Bella Bella in 4 years. It took them 5. They paddled to Bella Bella. 1989, they paddled to a Klulet. That was the first canoe journey that I went on. I was 5 years old. So, this year, we invited some Haudenosaunees out to paddle on our canoes with us. We want to open up the waterways from east to west. And, it was amazing because when we landed in Nisqually, after trying to learn how to get along with each other, which is super hard, when you're getting up at 4 in the morning with the tide and you're tired and you're hungry and you're just trying to you paddle all day long and your arms feel like they're going to fall off, and then you do it again the next day at 4 a.m. You're like, okay, here we go. Because of course you're people of the tide. You get up when the tide is going out. You don't get to wake up when you want to wake up and go, because if you paddle against the tide, what's the point? You'll paddle for an extra 12 hours. You got to go with the tide. So anyway, we land in Nisqually. And Nisqually is the place where there was the last public execution of Chief Leshai. Chief Leshai refused to give up this place called Frank's Landing. So there was a long war fought over Frank's Landing. Frank's Landing is a place where you could harvest really beautiful sockeye salmon. And it was so important to their people to maintain access to the sockeye. And so, after 10 years of fighting, they finally captured Chief Leshai. And they took him and they put him up in the 3rd story of this courthouse. And he was held there, captive for 300 days. And on the first day that he was put in the courthouse, canoes came from all over. And they parked their canoes in Nisqually, and they formed a circle around the longhouse. And they started singing a song to Chief Leshai so that he would know that he was not alone. Of, oh, oh, hiya, hey, Tacoma, hiya, hey, hiya, hey, hiya, hey, hiya, hey, hiya, forget the water. Squaliapsh, we are all here together. We stand with you. You are not alone. And on the day that Chief Leshai was publicly executed, he slipped a note to the people. And he said, there will be a very long time that you will have to endure, where a great many people will pass away, and a great many of our teachings will go away. But Taquoma, don't forget the water. The water will teach you who you are. And there will come a time again that our spirits will be strong. And when that time comes, I will be there with you. So, it's been 150 years since that day that canoes have landed on the shores of Nisqually. And I was there this last summer when over 400 canoes landed in Nisqually. That song was sung. This song started coming back. The traditions returned to our people. There was a chair out front for him, for Chief Leshai's spirit. And I cannot tell you how incredibly proud I felt in that moment to participate in the resurgence of our people's culture and traditions and lifeways. And I realized in that experience that indigenous intelligence, what it takes to do something like that, is so profound. I believe that by cultivating the earth, we can cultivate healing. So this is a photo of Miss Rowan White. She's an Akwesasne seed keeper. And my life totally changed when I met Miss Rowan. She told me about the greatest truth I've always wanted to know, that we are not in a time of scarcity, that the earth is abundant. She's been asked, she says it's all of our responsibilities that somewhere deep inside of us in our genetic memory, we have cultivated a relationship with the plants. So with the coming of the colonizer and colonization practices, we switched from a female-centered horticultural system where we took care of the plants. The women would go out and plant the seeds, and they'd run their hands along them in the morning, and they'd sing to those plants. You're precious. You matter to me. I'll take care of you. You take care of me, I'll take care of you. And when we had that sort of relationship with the plants, we were able to teach those lessons to our children. And then when we stopped participating in that reciprocal relationship with plants, we stopped teaching natural law to our children, and we began following man's law that has taught us things like capitalism. And that if we go back to cultivating plants, something magical and profound might happen. It could be the largest resistance known to capitalism, simply planting a little seed. So let me return for a moment to the issue of stereotypes before I close up. This is what happens when you Google African American. What do you see? The President of the United States, men in suits, happy smiling faces. This is what happens when you Google Asian American, American flag, somebody graduating from college, the military. This is what happens when you Google Hispanic. You will see the same thing. People taking selfies, happy families. This is what happens when you Google Native American. These are the images that we see when we're represented in massive media. This is the experience that our children are having. Native American stereotypes are ingrained in the fabric of our country as historical people, as tribal and inferior. Most contemporary depictions of Native Americans include the noble savage, redskins, spiritual beings, creatures fit for mascots. Psychologist Stephanie Freiberg has found that negative misrepresentations deeply damage the psyche of Native youth who give in to these stereotypes, depressing how they feel about themselves, their communities and their potential. And shockingly, in the same case study, when whites were shown the stereotypical images of Native Americans, their self-esteem was raised. What that tells us is that popular culture supports oppression, and without positive representations, our kids will continue to underperform and redefine themselves destructively. So then, how do we create systems of equality and inclusion when the messages we're consuming perpetuate racism? The answer is we can't. So I propose we use images like this instead, where we think incredible, Indian, Anishinaabe, Pima, and Lummi. We think of the beautiful, the culture-bearing, activists, and the 1491s. We think grandma and grandpa, auntie, cousin, chairman, Kanakamali, Tlingit, Zuni, and Pachanga. We understand the powerful, the persevering, and thriving. We know about Hajoni, and Peaches, and Brandon, and tribal royalty. We can think of the musicians, the PhDs, the elders, and fashionistas. We think loving, Paiute, Supai, Talela, and Crow. We think of our entrepreneurs, our filmmakers, our scholars, our holy men, and fishermen, and superintendents. We think fierce, veteran, teacher. We think of Indians as human beings. So here's one thing for you munchkins out there. That's what I call my students. Of course, we're not in Oz. So. Thanks to molecular archaeology, which includes the study of ancient DNA, to trace human movement over time, we now know the men have been the stay-at-homes and women have been the travelers. So the rate of intercontinental migration for women is about 8 times that for men. Whoa. In the face of all dire and often accurate warnings of danger on the road for women, it took the modern feminism to ask the rock-bottom question of, compared to what? Whether by dowry murders in India, killings in Egypt, domestic violence in the US and Canada, records show that women are more likely to be beaten or killed at home and by men they know. Statistically speaking, home is an even more dangerous place for women than the road. Perhaps the most revolutionary act for women will be a self-willed journey and to be welcomed when she comes home. So nothing really can sum my experience better. We have to see one another, not through our cellular devices, not through hashtags and Instagram. We need to see each other honestly in each other's homes, over home-cooked meals. Directly and honestly, we need to hear from one another with an open heart and an open mind. We need to learn from one another so that when someone says, I don't think you can make it out there, you can't survive the storm, you can turn to them and say, baby, I am the storm. We're allowed to dream. So I'm going to tell you about this. This is the last one, I promise. Just around that corner. That's what you say on the canoe. Keep paddling, it's just around that corner. Meanwhile, we know we're telling those kids we got 11 more miles. It's right the next corner, keep paddling. So I keep having this crazy dream, man. I'm on a subway in Seattle. That's how I know immediately that I'm dreaming, because public transportation is not happening in Seattle. And I'm drinking the most delicious cup of coffee. Not Starbucks, but the most delicious cup of coffee, because we really do make coffee better in Seattle. And I'm cruising along, and I look over to my left, and there's like these white people, and they're speaking Dene, talking about Hojo, beauty above me, beauty below me, beauty all around me, about interconnectedness. And I'm like, are those white people speaking Dene? And I look over in front of me, and there's some black people, and they're speaking Lakota. And they're like, oh, Matakulas and all my relations. I'm like, what? And then I look over this way on the subway, and there's some Asian ladies, and they're feeding their kids wild rice and smoked salmon, and they're speaking my language, Lashutsi, and they're scolding their kids like my grandma used to scold me. And I'm like, oh, how did they learn Lashutsi? And my mind is totally blown, and then I wake up. I always wake up after the Lashutsi and the grandma. And I realize, oh my God, I'm dreaming about a reality that didn't eradicate indigenous intelligence. I'm dreaming about a reality that instead of trying to force us into assimilation, we instead embraced indigenous concepts. Maybe I'm dreaming about a future that could possibly exist for us, where indigenous languages are a part of our common tongue, and indigenous foods are a part of our daily diet. And indigenous prayers is something that's being taught to our children. That's what I'm dreaming about. And it always ends a little tearful, because I never know, is it possible? Can it happen? Can our collective consciousness embrace indigenous intelligence? And I think it can. That's why I'm here, to remind all of us that it's a possibility. And so, in the spirit of healing and new direction, and in the spirit of my life for the last couple of months, and because my grandmas are always scolding me for not doing so, I'd like to leave all of you with a prayer song. In that traditional way, in that good way, like we say, in a good way. I will bless you like that, because I think it's good for us to bring our hearts and minds together so we can ask ourselves how we can make this world a better place. So pray with me, if you would. Pray for the people at Standing Rock. Pray for our water protectors. Pray for your humility. Ask the Creator to help you to be humble. Pray for the students here, that they don't give up, that they continue. Pray for the administrators here, that they will see indigenous intelligence as an important part of the curriculum that needs to be built here. Or if you don't pray, maybe you can talk to whatever it is that you believe in. Yeah? Okay. And you could stand up if you want to be respectful. Yeah? Okay. This song comes from a house. It's a prayer song. It's one of my favorite songs they give me, this song to sing. It means we invite the Creator into the space. Yeah. You can sing with me if you can sing it. Ani ne
Thank you, Matika, so much. Just to give you a little bit of context, I reached out to Matika by Twitter, I believe, or email, and I said, can we do like a chat or something like that online? I thought that was a big ask. She didn't know anything about me. And she said, well, that's not really my style, but I come and visit. So we appreciate her coming. We're about to the end of our time. Does anyone have like one or maybe have time for 1 or 2 questions if everyone has patience for that? Yes?
Well, first, thank you so much, Matika and the others, for this wonderful, enlightening, informative presentation, and enjoyable as well. My question about the communities that you said there is a certain number of indigenous communities that are recognized, but what's the total of the communities? So we can just look at those that are not recognized on why. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So there's 567 federally recognized tribes in the United States. There's like another 600 that are state recognized, and then there's an estimated maybe 300 that are not state recognized or federally recognized but still practicing. So there's 6 requirements to become a federally recognized tribe by the federal government. One, you have to have lived continuously through the occupation in one specific landscape and have connection to that land, that you can like prove that you harvested food there, or you could prove that you had ceremony there in some way. Then you also have to have a language that's still being spoken. That's difficult considering we all went to residential schools. You also have to have a religion that you can prove. So like you either have to be like smokehouse people or Sundance people or ghost dance people, but you have to have some form of religion that you can prove to the federal government. And then there's like 3 others that are really weird and complicated, like matters of blood quantum, some sort of written record of you being here pre-contact, which is also really difficult to prove because a lot of places that didn't happen. And then there's 2 others, and I can't remember what they are right now. So, it's very hard to maintain federal recognition. And during the 1950s in the U.S., there was called the Indian Termination Act, where it was the goal of the federal government to abolish tribal sovereignty in the United States. And so several tribes, there was like 1,100 federally recognized tribes then, and so that's when that number dwindled. I mostly chose to go to federally recognized tribes because I didn't know where I would go to find state recognized tribes. If you have a tribe that has like an administration building and tribal landscape, there's like somewhere you can drive to and put into like your map and then show up there until you make friends. With state recognized tribes, it would be really hard for me to find people, which is why I chose to do it that way. That doesn't mean that it's the right way. It means that that's what I'm able to do, but I would love, of course, to visit every tribe in the world, but they're just one person. I'd like to be like 8 people, or 7, because that's a good holy number. Okay. Yeah. Do we have any other questions? So we should round dance then, yeah. Can I use your drum? You guys want to dance? Stand up. We'll do this. I'm gonna sing you a song. It's a canoe journey song. This song is called the Grease Trail Song. And so you need a partner, pick a partner, and come stand out here by somewhere in a circle. Jake. And if you don't want to dance, that's all right. You can stay in the middle. We're going to end with a dance because it's fun. Pick a partner, and it goes like this.
No way my husband would do this.
You hold arms like this, and you go to the beat like this. And then when I change the beat, you go circle like this.
Yeah, see, you have to dance like that.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay, find your partner.
Okay, come on.
This song is an Alaskan song, and it's about how we go around together.
Be my partner.
Can you move?
Oh my God.
Huh? All right.